So our last video about the woke right got a few 100,000 views, and some people were critical, some people were very supportive. But my entire take on this is, look, there are so many competing ideologies right now, all from all over the place. And everyone seems to try to fill the vacuum of what the woke left over. But as you and I were speaking about, when you go so far to the left, the pendulum can't swing so far to the right that the goal is to remove liberties in order to stabilize things, right? We have a way of doing things that works. Sure, there's problems here and there depending on presidents, ideologies of those presidents at the time. But if you have an ideology you really believe in, why don't you just convince people that your ideology is the best without using woke right tactics, which is revisionist history, talking about oppressive narratives, using all the things that the left does? Just like in a capitalistic world, prove that your product is better and then people will come. Why do you have to try to be sneaky about it? If yours is best, just be like, mine's the best, here's why. Come.
Absolutely. I think the best way to put this is that the criticisms are valid, is that the solutions are problematic. And you said it perfectly. We swung way too far to the left in terms of over progressivism. And now, rightfully so, the right is pissed off about that. They're trying to swing it back to their side. But I'm worried that we're going to overswing it. And we're seeing that play out in real life with these conservative right personalities. Essentially, like you said, they're using woke left tactics to brainwash individuals or to try and drive some sort of propaganda to push people towards their narrative. Instead of winning them over by saying, look how incredible our ideology is, they are literally using the Marxist tactics in order to manipulate the perception of reality for these individuals to believe, hey, no, it's not the center is the valid solution here. Now, we got to go full authoritative, right? No individual rights, because look at what individualism has brought us in terms of the liberal society that we live in now. It's a very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you're the Christian right, let's say you're a Christian nationalist, and you want to show people, hey, this is the way that life should be lived. Why do you have to ask people to give away all their freedom of speech, a bunch of their rights that were given to us in the Bill of Rights, and say this is the only way that it's going to work? Why don't you just show that your life is better? Use marketing to show people, just like every other religion does, and show people this is the way that you should live because look, we're all happy, and people will gravitate towards that instead of using this sneaky way of saying, well, it's the only way to beat the left is if you give me all the power. Like that's the exact same thing the left is saying.
Exactly. And that's the problem here, is that they're going to inherit this power, right? Because look, again, I agree with them. There is a problem in terms of the nuclear family, right? And the erosion of all the basics of Western civilization. They're on point with that. But if we're going to swing towards an authoritative regime, you're going to limit the individualism that people have, their civil liberties. And at some point, you're going to have a person that will come into power that is going to erode, again, all of your beliefs, values, and traditions. That is the problem when you centralize all the power into a one individual or a group of individuals. And it seems like that's why I think we call them woke right at the end of the day. It's not because of the gender theories and the critical race theories that they mirror. It's because at the end of the day, the solution that they're asking for is quite literally the same solution that the left Marxists are asking for.
It's all power. Give me power and I'll make everything right. It's the exact same thing that we've gone throughout history time and time again. And once we give the power up, I mean, look at how hard it was to get the freedoms that we have today. How many people died? How many hundreds of years of struggle it took to get that? And you're going to go all the way back because I can fix things? Come on.
It seems like a repetitive cycle that if we swing one way or the other, it's constantly calling for revolutions. And what you're asking for a revolution because we're way too on one side just to bring us to the other side, which is a reflection of the other side that we're just on. It's a very messy process. And my worry at the end of the day is that the people that are propagating this stuff, the woke right tendencies, are huge personalities on the conservative right with such massive outreach that the issue is that when, like with Elijah Schaffer, when they're hammering nonstop the same thing about critical race theory just on the right side of it, what is that going to eventually lead us towards? We're kind of seeing that already with a split in the Republican Party. If we had an election right now, I don't know if Republicans could win because I don't know if we can pull together a coalition of Republicans to actually vote for it with the with the divisiveness that we have right now.
Well, and look, if you're a foreign government and you see this opportunity, you're doing the exact same thing that you did with the left, just on the right, because now you fragmented the left. The Democratic Party is in shambles. If you can do the exact same thing to the Republican Party, then you have a country with no vision, with no unity whatsoever, even less than before. And all that does is strengthen your position as a country relative to the United States of America. So I think we were talking about this where Qatar the other day, what they spend like, how much have they spent?
Over $100 billion to buy a seat at the table, right? To buy U.S. influence. And we're not talking about just politicians. We're talking about academia, real estate, banking, media. Media is a big one, right? You constantly hear about Israel influence in this and stuff like that. I've never seen actually Israel pour money into the United States at the amount of money that Qatar is doing. They're outperforming Israel and I believe Saudi Arabia combined together by 4 times. And we're talking about a small region, right? We're talking about a country the size of Iowa, pretty much, with the economy the size of Iowa as well. And they're pouring $100 billion, right? If you look at all of Trump's officials, for example, they're all some way connected to the Qatari government. Witkoff had his hotel bought out by the Qatari Wealth Fund for $700 million. Pam Bondi worked for the Qataris. Kash Patel was a consultant for the Qataris. Trump himself and his family, through their business ventures, are tied up to the Qataris, right? And you start to wonder, what is this all leading us towards? I'll kind of say this, like, it's not, I have a problem with any country, including Israel, being from Israel, spending money trying to buy American influence. But the problem with Qatar is that they're in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood. They quite literally harbor all the terrorist organizations, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, you take your pick. So what are we leading ourselves down when we're starting to engage in this kind of stuff?
The way I see it, if I'm looking at it from a macro perspective, Europe was our partners for a very, very long time. It doesn't seem that way anymore. It seems like there's this relationship where they need us and we kind of need them for stability, as it always is. But if you're looking 40, 50 years into the future, realistically, who is a better partner for you at the moment? Is it the Middle East or parts of the Middle East, or is it Europe? I mean, we were speaking yesterday. I think Europe needs at least 20 years of reform in order to get back on track from where they are now. So if you're looking at the next 20, 30, 40 years, you're America. Who has the most stability in the region? Well, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and apparently now Qatar. And if I'm Qatar, probably what I want to do is get, as you said, get a seat at the table. So I have to cause a little bit of chaos, show the big boys that I can play with them, show that I can destabilize things with the amount of money that I'm putting in, and then say, okay, you know what? I'm willing to give it up, but I want this, I want this, I want this. And it seems like that's exactly what's happening right now.
It is. It sure is. You know, I took harsh criticisms towards Trump's administration before he took the trip. I was telling you about this. I mean, I don't understand why he's doing this. But now after the trip, I'm starting to understand after hearing some political pundits talk about it as well. But it makes sense. It's exactly what you said. Who is more stable as a partner to the United States? The European Union, who's completely gone woke, open borders to the point of where now suddenly they're flip-flopping with the UK prime minister, president. I don't know who's there, right? But the whole point at the end of the day is what you're saying is that the Middle East, as much as they may be entangled in some problems to the United States, they are a fantastic partner to the United States. And do we want to push Qatar, as much problems as I have with Qatar, towards China, towards Iran, towards Russia? Probably not. Especially, why did President Trump bring this entire, all the AI people with him, right? Because we know where everything is going in terms of our society is towards AI. So we want to befriend and especially economically partner with the Middle East, especially they have so much money. It's not like the European Union or something like that.
Yeah, it's all the oil money that we gave them.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that if you're looking again 30, 40 years in the future, now it's not to say that the Middle East has, obviously they're Muslim and, you know, America is Christian. So it's not like they have the same values in terms of religion, but what they do want is stability more than anything else. And that's something that Middle East leaders have never really been able to keep in the last, you know, in the modern era. So if they're looking at stability and then trading partners, in the meantime, Now, that's not to say that in the future, when they get, a lot of money and they'll try to implement some kind of biometrics, 15-minute city type deal that China is doing, that they won't be an enemy at that point. But then at that point, who's going to be your friend? So, saying like a paleoconservative like Tucker Carlson claims to be, or people who say we should have no involvement in the world, this is a prime example of why the U.S. has to be involved in places, because if not, it just turns into, you have no idea what it turns into. And then China and Russia can gain influence in an entire region. And then where does that leave you as the odd man out again? And now you don't have Europe as a partner, as a strong partner like you did before. So you have to integrate yourself into these things. And unfortunately, you have to make bedfellows or, with people who maybe don't think the same exact way you do. But right now, they're the best option.
You're absolutely right. I mean, even though we have completely different traditions and values, specifically the fact that America is a Christian nation versus the Middle East, predominantly Muslim countries, we don't want to be in conflict with them. So how do you befriend somebody that has completely different traditions and values than you? Economic partnership, right? Israel was able to establish that through the Abraham Accords, thankfully, because of the United States bringing these countries together. They still completely disagree with each other, right? Saudi Arabia is constantly pressuring Israel into the whole Gaza thing, but they're still economic partners. Why? Because there's something interesting regarding peace through economic friendship, through economic strength. It's pretty much what Trump says, right? Peace through strength. The strength is the fact that we can tie each other economically together. Everybody likes money at the end of the day. Israel likes money. Saudi Arabia likes money. The United States likes money. Qatar likes to make money, right? You're not going... I feel like that's way more important than any ideology, is the money, the stability of the country. And these countries are maybe willing to put aside and maybe even do certain things. Like, I'd love to see if Qatar expelled the Muslim Brotherhood in order to gain this partnership with the United States. That's just me wishing. But I think that is something that we can start to accomplish through peace rather than leveling out places.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the prerequisites. I would assume that the Trump administration would tell them, like, look, we know you're doing this, we know you're funding these people, we know what you're doing. Stop. Yeah. If you want to, okay, now we're friends, now we're, whatever you call them. And now you have to stop all that, because if not, the money's not going to flow.
Especially if you want to buy 160 Boeing planes from the United States. We got to make sure that these Boeing planes don't suddenly end up in our skyscrapers. And the best way we can make sure that that is done with Qatar is by having Qatar completely reject the Muslim Brotherhood, cut ties with them. That at the end of the day, all the proxies are funded because of the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah. Money funneled into them from Iran, from Qatar, whatever it is, into the Muslim Brotherhood, and then they fund these proxies, right? Whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, which then cause a problem in the Middle East at the end of the day. I'm starting to really love this as we're talking about it. It's starting to get more and more in my head that the only way that the United States will actually continue this partnership with Qatar is if they do certain stuff like this, which they're willing to do in order to get their stability and economic prosperity, I would say.
And they have to make sure that the fringe groups in Qatar that really, really promote the Muslim Brotherhood from an ideological standpoint don't gain a foothold in the government and things. I mean, it's the same exact thing that we've done in every single country. Just, this is a new country. This is a new time. What do you do about it now?
Yeah. I really like this approach. Much better than full-scale invasion and tangling herself in a 20-year war and destabilizing stuff. For a while now, the United States has encountered a huge issue when it comes down to the 14th Amendment, the Birthright Citizenship Amendment, essentially allowing individuals that are here illegally, just enter the United States illegally, have a kid, and somehow that kid is now under the jurisdiction of the United States, meaning that that kid whose parents are illegals, don't have legal status, is now a U.S. citizen. And what they're doing in front of the Supreme Court today is that the Trump administration essentially challenged the jurisdiction clause of the 14th Amendment. They're arguing that although the amendment says that anybody in the United States is under the jurisdiction of the United States, the original intention of the 14th Amendment, which we'll pull up in a second, clearly outlines that if an individual is here illegally, if their parents don't have legal status, just because they have a kid in the United States doesn't mean that the kid automatically gets citizenship, right? And we've encountered that issue for a while now. They specifically said when they were introducing the 14th Amendment on the floor that this does not include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers. So they knew that they don't want to afford citizenship rights to individuals who are tourists, who are foreigners that don't have legal status in the United States. Yet look where we ended up, Fabian. 100 and something years, 150 plus years later, we're allowing individuals that illegally cross the border, that don't have any citizenship or status in the United States, don't even apply for asylum, as long as they pop a baby out, all of a sudden they're U.S. citizens.